Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 16 of Live Streaming Rebels with me, Marco, and him over there, Dan Wilkinson, sniffly Dan Wilkinson. But first of all, very. I'm a little bit myself, so we've both kind of got a little bit of lurgy going on. So apologies if we sniff, cough, sneeze during today's show, but hopefully we can keep it abated enough to get through this. So welcome to 2024 as well, for those of you who we haven't spoken to. It's great to be into a new year, into January, and looking ahead to what I think is going to be a very lucrative and busy 2024 for DW Media, for Dan and I. We spent the best part of a day last week out of office in a pub. Alcohol was not involved, I assure you. Just planning what we wanted to do for 2024 and what we've actually got coming up. So it's looking pretty exciting. So, apart from sniffly and all of that, Dan, how are you doing?
All right. I keep muting myself so you don't hear me just, sniffing away in the background. But yeah, doing all right. 2024, here we are. We've got looks like a big summer coming up, which should be good. Just sort of crack on and see what happens. I mean, we've already got some inquiries through for February, which is stuff that we didn't expect to have, which I'm seeing where that goes at the moment. But we've got a load of stuff booked in over the summer as well, including some event Wi-Fi jobs, some live streaming jobs, some video production jobs, a whole range of stuff. And hopefully we can all bring some behind the scenes look to this show as well and show you how it's all done. Maybe not just in the live streaming world as well. Although, our test, we've even been looking at the event Wi-Fi stuff and figure out what more we could do with that, and having those discussions. And other than me buying a piece of kit that just hasn't worked at all, it's been going all right. So yes.
Well, you say that new bit of kit didn't actually work. It wasn't that the kit didn't work. It's just the plug, for some reason, the adapter, the connector, just didn't fit. So it's just a case of returning that to get another unit. And obviously there's just been a manufacturing issue with that particular one. So fingers crossed that gets organised and sorted. And we'll get the chance to actually test it so that we can enhance our offering for event Wi-Fi, which is certainly lining up to be a busy event season for us in 2024. We thought 23 was pretty busy, but it looks like it's definitely going to be surpassed by 24. We've got quite a few events already in the diary, which is awesome. Live streaming is ultimately what we tend to focus on, and events on this channel, on this show. And we wanted to try something a little bit different in today's show, as you may have seen from the description. So we are trialing, since Instagram announced that you could now use third-party software to actually go live, and they'd rolled that out to everybody, so you can actually go live from a desktop and a desktop app. So that is currently what we are trialing today. First time that we've actually done this, and it's been a bit of a challenge setting this particular one up. So I've spent, quite a bit of time actually delving into how to actually do this, rather than setting up two pieces of streaming software. I haven't, just the way that I've done it, because I'm actually using two computers, but that's not, the two computers aren't running the separate streams. So the reason is, I say this, I'll explain it so everybody is aware. I tend to run this show from my desktop just because it's easier and I've got all the equipment in front of me. And then from that, what I normally do is I then run the actual stream so that it's not putting my desktop desktop computer under so much load, I stream via my laptop. So I just connect the stream from one computer to the other using the same bit of software. And that allows me to just make sure that the switching side of things is done on my desktop, but the actual encoding or decoding, I can never remember which way around it is, encoding, sending the stream out is done on my laptop, just so that it's not under as much load on the desktop, because the desktop, admittedly, this particular one is getting a bit aged now, and it struggles sometimes with throwing lots of stuff at it. So trying to get it to do everything, it probably wouldn't cope. So really what I should do is move everything across to the laptop and run it off the laptop. But that means I haven't got all my ancillary equipment that I've got connected to the desktop being able to actually control the show in the way that I want to do that. Looks like we've got Tim Lewis with us today, which is awesome. And he's interested to know how the testing is going. Well, you tell us. So we should be streaming to multiple channels as well as LinkedIn. Now, we are streaming to Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube in landscape or horizontal format. But on Instagram, we are streaming in portrait mode, and it's a completely different layout because of that parameter of or format of being able to use or having to use the vertical or portrait mode. So my streaming software that I use, which is by a company called vMix, is actually running both streams. So when I switch across, so if I cut across to myself, on a singular view, that should have also changed on Instagram at the same time. So I'm using all of this, two different formats and layouts from one piece of software, because this is a software-based switching solution, and pushing those streams out through the encode on the actual software as well, which allows me to send two streaming encodes out. One is in vertical or portrait mode, and the other is in horizontal or landscape mode at exactly the same time. Now, to be able to run multiple streams to the other channels that we're using, so YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn, we are using another bit of online software called Restream, which just allows us to syndicate that stream. So I'm only sending two streams out. So one is going to Restream, and that's sending the horizontal or landscape format across to all the other channels. The other encode is being sent direct to Instagram in portrait or vertical mode, which has a different layout. But everything should mirror what's happening in the other format, the way I've got it set up. Now, people have tried to emulate this before, and what they've done is they've used either a mobile phone while they've been streaming, which gives a slightly odd perspective, and I'm not sure that it really gives the best viewer experience, if I'm honest with you. Whereas being able to actually do it simultaneously just means that we've got a bit more control over things. And I have also heard of people running two separate streams completely. So there is a producer, so a background producer who's producing the portrait stream, and then a separate producer who's producing the landscape stream, which obviously adds to a lot more complexity for people being involved. And because I literally run the whole of this particular stream on my own, Dan is a co-presenter, but he's not doing any of the switching, he's not doing any of the technical stuff. He's literally just putting ducks in his headphones to try and get me to laugh, which I'm refusing to do. Because he thought I hadn't noticed, because he's not on screen. But yes, I'd noticed, Daniel. Didn't put me off at all. So that's ultimately how I'm doing it. But there are other bits of software involved to allow me to do a lot of the heavy lifting. So to switch the two different formats at the same time, excuse me, I'm using a bit of hardware, which is a surface control panel, which I can hold up. You can see there, if I pull it across a bit, So that allows me to do the switching for the different views. So I'm currently on single view, but if I switch back across to both of us, that is literally just a button press on this control surface. But what is running that control surface is an absolutely amazing piece of software called Central Control. And what that allows you to do is connect software and hardware together, multiple bits of software, so you could have lots of different things being run, multiple instances being run from one piece of software connecting everything together. So that bit of software, Central Control, is actually connecting that MIDI device that was switching, has the buttons on and has the faders on. That is connected to my vMix software, which allows the switching of the scenes, etc. So if it wasn't for Central Control, I could still do it, but it would be a lot more complicated, and I would have to have somebody else running a completely separate stream to go out to Instagram for the vertical or portrait format, which would just make it really complicated because they would be having to watch when I'm switching or watch when somebody else is switching. Whereas, excuse me, I just press a button and it literally just does everything at the same time. You got any questions about any of that, Dan?
Not yet, no. Sorry, I had myself on mute because I was also squeaking a duck at the same time as not sneezing. Yes,
of course you were.
The duck was real. I think I was reading up on Instagram that there's some drawbacks to it currently. So it's only 720p. Am I right? It's not 1080 yet on stream.
Sorry, I was reading a question at the same time as you were asking me a question. So a comment from Tim.
I was just saying about paying attention, about how it's important. So
yeah, never ever.
No, so at the moment on Instagram you can only stream in 720p. Is that right? You can't do 1080.
Yeah, that's correct. So it's kind of they say you need to use 1280. Really,
right,
is kind of the norm, which is ultimately a 720p stream. But according to Tim, it's looking okay. He says there's a little bit of lag between Instagram and LinkedIn, but there again, who would be watching them both at the same time? You know,
exactly.
So, but at least it's working. That's the ultimate aim, was to see if this was actually doable. Because I've done a lot of trolling around the forums, I've done a lot of trolling around YouTube to see if anybody else has actually tried this. I was actually on a stream yesterday with a guy from the States who I follow, who was doing it, but he was doing it in a slightly different way. I think he was using a yellow box, which is a kind of an all-in-one, quite a powerful little unit, but I'm not sure if he was running both streams from that. He didn't actually say, to be honest with you. But he did, when I said I was prepping for today's show, he did say, well, good luck with that, thinking it was probably going to be a challenge. And I've got to admit, it was a bit of a challenge just getting my head around it. But I think once I've got my head around it, it's a fairly, I want to say a simple thing, but it's not, because you've got to have the two different formats run at the same time. Is there a use case for it? Well, again, I think it remains to be seen whether Instagram itself is actually going to be a good vehicle or a good platform to use for live streaming. Obviously, it's in its infancy with regards to running it from third-party software, which means that you can do a more polished production. But is it going to take off? Is there going to be some legs in it? That remains to be seen. I think it's going to be a slow burner in that respect. I haven't seen many people doing it live like this, apart from obviously people doing it live from the app on that actual mobile device. But giving us more control to be able to do these things, just for me, just gives us, some additional armory or ammunition in our armory to be able to reach a different audience, perhaps we wouldn't manage to connect with on some of the other platforms. So it just gives you a little bit of extra, I think. Tim seems to think Dan could be my laptop in terms of streaming. I'm not quite sure what he means by that. Dan could be your laptop. Yeah, sorry, Tim, don't quite get that one. But if you want to expand on that, please do. Have there been any comments on the Instagram? Because you're monitoring Instagram, I'm monitoring everything else, but you're monitoring Instagram.
Other than me saying hello from my own account, and then me saying hello to Tim, and then Tim telling me he was going back to LinkedIn.
Right. Okay.
No, there has been, but there's been people tuning in, and which is good. And I think there's one person watching at the moment, although I'm not entirely sure if that classes as I'm watching it on the desktop, but I'm watching it in their live video section. I don't know if that classes as a view. I'm not overly sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But there's been people tuning in. And I think, the Instagram lives will really depend on how good the notification of it is. I have not had a notification saying that I'm live. And I've got a few other Instagram accounts, and I've not had a notification saying DW Media is live, and we follow each other on them.
Yeah.
So that might need some work.
I think the other thing as well is, that it literally just goes live on your stories and it disappears. As soon as the live is finished, you can't then... like a lot of the other platforms, you can't then tune in and see it. It gets archived if you've got it set in the back end of your Instagram account. It will archive it, so you can then either download it or you can share it afterwards, I think. I'm sure that I saw a share option in there. But people can't then obviously catch the live as a replay unless you share it again, which is quite interesting. Yeah. I interrupted, sorry.
Sorry, I think it was just important to say as well that to do this, you don't need to have what me and Mark have set up with vMix and all this other stuff. You can do this from using a free software like OBS. There's a free version of vMix you could probably do with it and just stream just to Instagram. But the complexity... I don't know if you can actually with the free version of vMix, but that's one for Mark. But I think the complexity with this one comes in that we already stream on LinkedIn, we stream on YouTube, we stream on something else. We stream on 2 LinkedIn pages, 1 YouTube page, this Instagram page now, and Facebook. Yeah. And there's a lot of moving parts to this. And being able to have it in a different scale as well. What would be interesting is next time we do a show, Mark, see if we can do TikTok as well. There we are. There's a challenge for you.
Yeah, the thing is that with TikTok, you've got to have a bigger audience to actually have the feature to be able to go live. Right. I think there's some other criteria that you have to adhere to. Excuse me, when I've looked at it. Tim might actually know. I'm not sure if Tim actually... Because Tim's a big live streamer, Tim Lewis. And he may have used TikTok. I'm not sure. I've never... Because I'm not a big TikTok fan, I've got to be honest with you. No. And certainly from a business perspective, the jury's still out for me. It tends to get a bit negative on there. A lot of the social media sites can be negative at the best of times, but TikTok certainly seems to be even more negative. But you can get a lot of traction. You can get a lot of, not necessarily engagement or positive engagement, but you can certainly get a lot of traction on there. But part of the issue is that when you look at your stats and look at your analytics, that a view on TikTok is literally an impression. So somebody could be scrolling through the feed and you'll get notified that you've had a view, which they might not have actually viewed it. They literally just scroll past it. So, so according to Tim, who is the font of all knowledge, says, I think you need 10,000 followers to live stream to TikTok.
So I need more than the 70 I've got them.
Indeed, definitely.
Yeah, a little bit more than that.
But again, as I say, I'm just not sure that it's necessarily a platform that I think that we want to leverage at the moment. We have enough difficulty trying to keep up with all the other ones. Yeah,
I just watch
depends.
To be honest, TikTok, I just mainly watch cat videos on it. There's not much business that goes on in it. I like to think there is, but there really isn't, which is always the thing. And I don't know if you spoke about when you're setting up a live video as well on Instagram, you can either do it public or as, did it say practice was the other one? Which I think the two words are very similar for me with dyslexia, just reading both of them. Currently,
there is a practice option, which how long that's going to be around, whether that's something that's going to stick around or whether it's something that they've just got in place at the moment. But there are two kind of caveats, I think, for me with with Instagram. Certainly, the way that we've done it, and other people that I've seen have done it, is that as soon as you connect your streaming software that you're using, or your switcher, but it doesn't automatically go live. You have to press, excuse me, live within Instagram. So you would have to start your stream, which in our case, Restream automatically does that as soon as I press, start streaming from the software. So that goes out straight away. But then we've got to then tell Instagram, yes, we now want to go that through. But between me pressing start the stream and it actually going live, it buffers or stores that info, that data. So you've got to make sure that you're ready and you're not, like in Dan's case, putting your makeup on or cutting your nails or whatever you want to do. So just be ready and press that.
When have I ever done any of those things on a call?
Well, allegedly. We'll
allegedly. It's Saturday and Sunday, and we don't do these on that weekend.
Yeah, indeed. So yeah, you have to make sure that you go live straight away. And also the fact, obviously, I said before, that there is no ability for people to kind of then see the replay unless you share it or download it and then send it out again as as another format. So it'll definitely be interesting to kind of see where it goes. I still think there's probably better use cases for different platforms. But again, one of the things that we kind of, I suppose, pride ourselves on is that we like a challenge and we like to try and work things out. And I found that because I couldn't find the information on how to do this, I just kind of worked it out myself. And yeah, I haven't seen anybody else do it yet. But that's not to say that it can't be done. And I think a lot of the other streaming platforms will potentially look to be able to do this, but I've got a feeling that there are going to be very few of them who are able to send out two different formats of the actual encoded stream. So you will be able to have perhaps a vertical stream going to Instagram via one of the other streaming platforms like StreamYard or something like that, or vMix or OBS, whichever one you use. But are you going to be able to send two actual encoded streams out in two different formats? That's going to be the thing. And I just keep coming back to, is it worth it? We will remain, well, it will remain to be seen whether it's actually worth it. A lot of people I know have some great success on Instagram. It's not. I'm not a huge user of it. I'm a huge stalker. I'd say stalker. That's not the right word at all to use. Definitely not the right word to use. Lurker was the word I was looking for on Instagram, but I don't necessarily post a lot of stuff on there. So I'm a consumer of it, but not necessarily a big user of it for actually putting my content out there. That might change. Depends. We shall have to see. We've only gone live. We could have gone live on more than one Instagram account, but we decided to just do the DW Media Instagram account. I could have done my Pocket Video one as well. But yeah, we'll kind of see how things pan out in that respect. So, any thoughts, Dan, on kind of where your stance is on the different platforms and where you think Instagram might fit into from a live perspective?
Thank you, Stalker. I think it's. I think they maybe need to have a look at how the layout is before it gets big on Instagram. I mean, with TikTok, and they have done this very well, when you're scrolling down, they're just there, and there's a whole tab dedicated to it. With Instagram, because it's so integrated with the stories, and because Instagram was such a photo, it was still photos was the original thing, and they've bolted all these other things on over the years. And I just think that because they've been bolting, they maybe need to rejig how the menu works. And they've added in that video feed where you can just go down and scroll. Reels, that's what it's called. Forgot the name of it. But I just think that from a point of view of making it easier, the notifications they need to sort out, because Facebook's actually really good at notifications. Same company, shouldn't be too difficult. They need to make live a bit more accessible in terms of actually being able to do it and being able to view it on the phone. And then I think being able to share and keep them on the profile as well, because this goes into some weird archive, doesn't it? And you've got to find it and afterwards. And it just feels a bit disjointed. And I know why they've launched it, because TikTok released theirs and YouTube has theirs and everyone else has theirs, and they just want to get it out. But don't half finish it, and we'll have to see where it goes. I think people need to use it more before it gets better. And I think with it being so early on, the people who are using it now will sort of shape how it's going to be used in the future. I have a feeling.
Yeah. So you have to make sure that you have a setting enabled in the background that archives the live that you've done. And from there, you can actually share it. And Tim actually made a good point and said that you could probably just stream a replay of the live show on other platforms in vertical format on Instagram. You could, but I think the whole point of this test and kind of the point that we're trying to make is being able to do both at the same time, but having the ability to actually have the two different formats, so the landscape and the portrait format going out at the same time, rather than, because if you and I've seen people try it, and I tried it when it first came out, just taking our stream that is currently in landscape and just sending that out onto Instagram, and it ends up squashing it. And the whole thing just looks absolutely abysmal, in my opinion. And it is not something that I think people would necessarily engage with, because it does look very much like an afterthought. Whereas what we're trying to do is actually produce something that is specifically tailored for vertical streaming on Instagram, but then still being able to produce our normal show on the other platforms in, the landscape mode. So it is, how many people are going to do this? How many people are going to go through the process of doing it? And again, Tim says StreamYard have actually brought out some vertical options within their ecosystem now. But again, he says probably only allowing you to do either or. You can do landscape or you can do portrait. You can't do both together. Whether they can get to that critical mass, whether they can get to the point where it's worth them investing and being able to do encode 2 streams at the same time in those platforms, I don't know. That's going to put a lot of drain on their resources, and whether that would mean that they would have to charge an even higher premium to be able to cover the hosting costs, I really don't know. It's a difficult one. And again, even from my point of view, I've got to be sending out 2 encodes at the same time from my switching software, from vMix. I have to make sure that I have enough bandwidth in my upload on my internet connection to be able to cope with that. I'm quite fortunate that I'm on fiber direct to the office, which means that I've got about 90 megabytes upload, which some places have a lot better than that, but that's the best that I can get in my particular area. But that gives me plenty, because I'm streaming out at, I think I'm streaming out 6 megabytes per second to Restream, which is then obviously syndicating it out to the other platforms. But then I'm also sending out, I think, between 3 and 4 megabytes per second to Instagram. So I'm doing about 10 and 12 megabytes per second. So I've got enough headroom in my bandwidth to be able to do that, but some people might not have that. Previously, I would have struggled to do that because I literally only had about 5 to 6 megabytes total up before I got my fiber direct. So you've got to be massively considerate of what your infrastructure is to be able to do this as well. So if you're relying on a broadband connection that isn't particularly stable, or certainly isn't particularly fast, you don't have a decent upload speed, then you would really struggle to do more than one stream. And that is also obviously going to massively impact what you're actually capable of doing. So Tim says he's just checked and it's only 1,000 TikTok followers. So yeah, that could be it's
Well, we're
still
still
more
not
than
there.
the 70.
So, yeah,
still more than the 70.
we're still not there. So,
No.
we're a little bit off that one. A little bit off that one.
But I mean, I haven't spoken to anybody who's actually live streamed on TikTok. Have you?
I haven't got any friends who have got more than 1,000 followers, so no.
No. And because I don't use it as a platform, I don't necessarily follow anybody who's kind of gone live on TikTok. I've got to be honest. When Amazon first brought out their live streaming platform, I thought, oh, that's going to be quite interesting to kind of see where people go with that. And I know that a lot of people have set up Amazon live streaming to promote, obviously, products within Amazon and get a commission on that. And that is, quite a good way of getting an additional income stream. I'm not sure if Tim does a stream on Amazon. I think our guest before Christmas, Ian Anderson Gray, has done quite a lot of stuff on Amazon. But again, you have to meet certain criteria to be able to be invited within the actual Amazon live streaming ecosystem. What that criteria is, I don't know, because again, it's not something I've necessarily looked at. For all, I'm a great advocate of live streaming, and I really like live streaming. I don't want to put myself in the position where I'm spread myself too thin. So I'll just focus on the platforms that I feel that we will get some traction from. And we are still building. We're still very much at the early part of our journey with live streaming for ourselves. Obviously, we do a lot of live streaming for clients. And that is a different kettle of fish altogether because they've already got their audiences, but we are, in the early stages of just kind of building our audience. So hopefully we can continue to do that. And if anybody has any additional questions about how we've set this up today, feel free to pop them into the comments and we'll try and answer them. If we don't get to them today, we'll certainly try and get to them in the future. But yeah, as a test, I think it's worked. I did actually just jump on my phone there, Dan, when you were chatting, and I did get a notification. I did get a notification.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
you did.
I didn't check what time I got the notification, whether it actually went as soon as we went live or whether it was after that. But the quality looked pretty good. I've got to be honest, and I haven't set it up as a 1280 stream. It is literally just going out as a 720, so it could actually be improved if I changed the actual settings within the encoding software. I could have actually probably sent out a higher quality stream, and I could have upped the bit rate as well. But yeah.
So I have just gone on. Yes, my mic's on. Sorry, I was just double checking. So I have just gone on Instagram here and gone onto the page. And it's come up with, I don't know if this will focus on the camera, but I'll read out what it says. It says, request to be in this live video.
From whom?
Anyone can watch it, and some of your followers will be notified. Some of your followers will be notified. When the live video ends, DW Media can share it on the profile and then save it and archive it for up to 30 days. Yeah. So I can request off this is my personal profile. I can request off my personal profile to be part of the live stream. So we could have people joining.
Yeah. Now,
should I test this? Should I press the big blue button?
Well, go on. See what. But the only thing is that the only people who are going to see what's going on will be the people on actual Instagram, because this won't come through to the actual other stream.
Yeah. Well, I'll mute myself on the phone so you can still hear me. So I'll send the request. I just want to see what it looks like on my end.
So while you're doing that, I'm just going to. What I should really do is make sure that we can pull the comments in as well. So that's something I'm going to have to look at. So because Tim has been really, really good and asking a lot of comments, asking a lot of questions, and providing some really valuable comments as well. So he actually does a book chat live on Amazon. He says you need to be an Amazon influencer. He said, I got in with my 10,000 Twitter followers, but they've stopped accepting Twitter or X as it is now. So that's like 5 to 10,000 followers. So is that 5 to 10,000 followers across all channels, Tim? Or does it have to be a particular channel? That for me would be the interesting kind of anomaly in there, is if it's across the whole of your audience or whether it's just a particular platform that they're asking for the followers to be on.
So I requested, and I'm looking on the event log of the live video on my desktop, and it says nothing. Doesn't say anything's happened. On the comments, it says nothing, and nothing's changed on my screen. So that feature clearly isn't working.
Okay. Again, early stages, so it might be... Because I know that that could just be a legacy one from the previous Instagram
Possibly.
Live from a mobile app, because we're streaming from the desktop app of Instagram. That feature was in there for a long time, and then they took it out where you could join other people's streams. So have they just kind of copied the code over basically and left it in there? I don't know. But that's interesting. When I've seen other people testing it, nobody's mentioned that before. So that would be interesting, and certainly to see how it would work. And as I said, in our case, that definitely wouldn't work because we wouldn't really see the benefit of that, because only the people on Instagram would see that, whereas we couldn't bring them in. We could bring a guest in to the main stream and have that set up so that we, like when we did with our first live guest at the end of last year, when we had Ian Anderson Gray on and we had the three of us on, I could have done that within my multi-format setup, but it takes a bit more time to actually configure that. We could have had three of us. I think for me, one of the biggest issues, certainly with the Instagram Live, is that anybody who's watching the stream, no matter how you set it up, or you could be a little bit clever in the way that you position everybody on the screen. So I've tried to fill the screen with the two of us, but anybody who asks a question or puts a comment on there, the overlay that appears on top of that stream is kind of covering the person who's at the bottom of it. So that is definitely an issue. And if you were doing a presentation where you had a picture-in-picture, and you had yourself and some presentation, like a I can't think of the word, PowerPoint, that's the one, something like that, and you were doing a presentation in that way, then a lot of what you were perhaps trying to highlight would be covered by the engagement that you're getting from people joining, because it does notify you when people join. But any comments, any questions that people put on, that overlay would cover that real estate on the screen as well, which could potentially be an issue. So yeah, it's I think probably there are more, certainly at the moment, there are more cons for the way that we do things than there are pros, but I'd be interested to kind of see or hear other people's opinions. So so Tim says, when I asked that question before about was it across all channels for your audience for Amazon live stream, he says they don't say what channels or what the actual numbers are, but I've heard it's around those figures of 5 to 10,000. Supposedly different platforms. YouTube better than Instagram, for example. So yeah, you understand that YouTube would be
probably keep it very vague.
Just so they
process.
Can be picky with people. So
yeah,
interesting though. And maybe we, in fact, here's a good idea. I think we should. We've had one guest on. I wonder if Tim might be interested in coming on as a guest in a future episode and just chatting to us about how he's used live, because he's been doing live streams for a long time now, from kind of various different platforms and various different elements of his business that he has. So
it's good to see that you're giving him plenty of time to think about it in private before inviting him publicly on the show, and that he's got plenty of time to consider.
That we've got the social proof to say that he has been invited.
Get on this show. Join right now.
And if Tim's going to Adventures in Marketing this year, then I'll catch up with him there. So he says, yes, happy to come on. I can tell you how not to make money on lives. Fair enough. I think we've got that nailed as well, Tim, so I wouldn't worry too much about it.
What an episode we're looking forward to. Episode 17, how not to make money online.
Online?
Online.
Oh, online.
My voice is just awful.
You said online?
In general.
Yeah. So Well, I think that's pretty much it for today's episode. So thank you very much to you, Dan, for battling through with your sniffles and your cold. Mine's not been too bad. Mine's not been too bad. But certainly better when we first started because, I had some issues with some health problems then. And thank you very much to Tim for agreeing to come on a future episode. No pressure. And for being a very valued member of today's show and asking lots of questions. Make money online. Great show, yeah.
To our 2 viewers, Tim and my mum.
Your mum's been on today, is she?
No, I make her watch them afterwards. Look, Mum, look what I've been doing.
Look what I've been doing. Tell me what I've done wrong. Yes, why have I been such a bad boy? Oh, that's a story for another time. Hey-ho. Anyway, thanks, guys. All the best to you, and hopefully we should see you in a couple of weeks' time. If not, depending on... Yeah, because we've got a bit of a mixed bag of stuff coming up. So our aim is to be live again in a fortnight's time, but you might have to be a little bit flexible with that. So, but take care for now. Have a great one, guys, and we will see you soon.
Oh.